Dave Ramsey has helped a genuinely enormous number of people get out of debt. He's also, by his own company's research, talking to about half the country. And the math says the other half might be right to ignore him on a couple of his biggest rules. Specifically, pay off all debt, even the cheap stuff, before you invest. And cut up your credit cards, rewards or not. Both are great advice for a lot of people. Both are also, for a specific kind of person, costing real money. Let's run the actual numbers. Here's the split that explains everything else in this video. 49% of credit card holders carry a balance month to month. That's roughly 131 million Americans revolving debt, averaging about $10,870 each, at an average interest rate of 22%. The other 51% pay their statement in full every month and pay zero interest, ever. Ramsey's rules are built and tested on the first group. If you're carrying a balance at 22%, almost everything he says is correct, and arguing about optimization is missing the point entirely. This video isn't for that half. It's about what happens to the same rules once you're already in the second half. Ramsey's position: get to zero debt, including your mortgage, before investing aggressively. Housing is most people's biggest expense. A paid-off house is real security, and there's no faster way to free up your monthly cash flow. Here's the math-based problem with applying that rule to cheap debt specifically. As of late July 2026, the average 30-year mortgage rate is 6.76%. The average credit card is sitting at about 22%. APR. Those are not the same kind of debt, but Ramsey's all debt is dumb framing treats them the same. Ramsey himself has used a 12% average annual return for the stock market when talking about retirement and investing. That's a real number. But it's the arithmetic average from 1928 to 2023. The number that actually matters for compounding, the geometric average over the same period, is 9.8%. And once you account for volatility, taxes, fees, and the well-documented tendency for investors to buy and sell at the wrong times, a more realistic planning number is closer to 7%. Even at that more conservative 7%, it still clears a 6.76% mortgage, just not by the massive margin the 12% number implies. Meaning, the math genuinely does favor investing over prepaying a low-rate mortgage, just less dramatically than Ramsey's own numbers suggest. And this isn't a hypothetical. It describes a huge, specific group of real people right now. About 1 in 5 mortgaged homeowners, 20%, locked in a rate under 3% during the pandemic years. For that group, the gap isn't 6.76% versus maybe 7%. It's under 3% versus maybe 7 to 9.8%. A much wider, much clearer gap. If that's you, prepaying that mortgage is close to the least useful thing you could do with extra cash. That same group has also built enormous equity without prepaying a single extra dollar. Average home equity per homeowner is up 142% since 2020. From home price growth alone, not extra payments. Total U.S. home equity went from about $20 trillion at the start of 2020 to nearly $35 trillion by the end of 2024. The house is already building your net worth in the background. Rushing to pay down a sub 3% loan on top of that doesn't add security. It just parks cash somewhere it was already growing on its own, at a rate you can't beat by prepaying. To be fair to him, his own show has acknowledged this exact tension. When callers point out that the math favors keeping a low-rate loan and investing the difference, Ramsey and his team don't deny the math. They argue it ignores risk, and the psychological and relational strain of carrying any debt at all. That's a legitimate point. It's just a different kind of argument than a mathematical one. And here's where he's actually right, with real research behind it. A Northwestern Kellogg school study, published in the Journal of Consumer Research, found that people who use the smallest balance first method, Ramsey's debt snowball, paid off their debt about 15% faster than people using the mathematically optimal method of tackling the highest interest rate first. Real progress on a small balance keeps people going in a way that slow progress on a big one doesn't. So on debt payoff order, if you're still building the habit, the snowball is genuinely the better bet, backed by real behavioral data. If you're already disciplined and the debt left is cheap, the math says, stop prepaying it and go invest the difference instead. Ramsey's other big rule: credit card rewards are bad math, full stop. His company's national study of millionaires surveyed over 10,000 millionaires, and 0 of them said credit card points were part of how they got rich. But look at what that same study actually found about their habits. 73% of those millionaires say they've never carried a credit card balance in their lives, and 94% say they live on less than they make. Notice what that's actually measuring: not carrying a balance, not never touching a card. And a separate study, the Rich Habits Study, found the opposite of the millionaires avoid cards narrative. 93% of self-made millionaires in that study used credit cards specifically because they had rewards attached. 97% paid the balance in full every month, and 85% said they deliberately put big purchases on a rewards card just to earn the points. To be fair to Ramsey again, there's real science behind his caution, and it's stronger than most people think. A landmark MIT study had people bid on sold-out Celtics tickets, paying either cash or credit card at random. The credit card group bid 64 to 113% more, on average, for the identical tickets. Researchers call it the credit card premium. Cards separate the moment you get something from the moment you feel the cost. And for a lot of people, that gap genuinely changes behavior. That's real evidence, and it's the strongest argument for cutting up the cards, if you're someone that effect applies to. But if you already track a budget and pay in full every single month with zero revolving interest, a cashback card isn't bad math. It's close to a guaranteed small rebate on money you were spending anyway. Here's my own version of this, in real numbers. I use a card that pays 3% cash back on everything. The Robinhood Gold card, paid in full, every month. No exceptions, ever. On $40,000 a year in spending, that's $1,200 a year back, against a membership cost of $50 a year to access the card at all. Same logic on the debt side. I don't rush to pay off low-interest debt at the expense of tax-advantaged investing. Not because Ramsey's wrong that debt is a real risk for most people, because the specific math, at my specific interest rate, points the other way. So is Dave Ramsey wrong? Mostly no. He's optimizing for the person who needs a bright line rule and a behavior fix, not the person who already has the habit built. The moment you're debt-free, disciplined, and tracking your money, a couple of his rules stop saving you from yourself and start quietly costing you money instead. Sources for every number in this video, the Millionaire Studies, the MIT research, current interest rates, are linked in the description. This is episode 1 of a short series. Next up, the 12% return myth and why low-fee index funds usually win anyway. Then the actual order to max out a 401k match, a Roth IRA, and an HSA. Then how I track a monthly budget and project my net worth out every quarter. Subscribe if you want the rest of it.